reading a book like yours, it makes me believe in execution because I would have no qualms. I'm like, no, there's just nothing to be done with you. Just get rid of them. I think
we'll definitely get rid in terms of like put someone like that behind bars where they cannot do
I go further. I would just say just get rid of them off the planet.
Yeah. But then we're feeding into that.
There's a level of evil. I think there's a level of evil that has to be executed because it's the only way to send the message of that this will not stand.
I see.
There's a level of evil, and there's a level of evil when it's perpetrated like that. Not just I say there's no justification of the way that these beings treated children. There's no justification.
I understand. There is no justification. These are people who have made themselves into monsters by every choice they've made, makes them more into a monster. And that's absolutely true. When we are going to decide who lives or die, I'm afraid that we're going to start on the same path. And that's how revolutions are stoked, of course. And that's why we can't get out of this paradigm, is because we go to violence as well. So my viewpoint is ideal. I understand that. It might not be very practical, but I do see that people like that in an environment where you have prison right now, that's good enough. Prison where they can't get out, that's good enough. But of course, I've worked in the prison, so the way that the prison system works is not healing at all either. So surprisingly, a lot of people do come to terms, let's say, with what they've done and find spirit in prison anyway, because they have that time. But yeah, to have a system where people who are a danger to children obviously need to be behind bars. And what happens then behind the bars, that is sort of like, the unconditional model that I developed is more about how you approach healing.
Yes, I understand. I agree with healing, but monsters like Michelle Nihul or the Polo.
There's very little chance that they would be responsive to even an ideal environment in which they could heal. And then that is ultimately because their shame is too great. Their fear is too great. So if they're constantly seen and treated that way, it has to do with projection, right? If you see someone at their emotional age, which for a Michelle Nihul, who is this total monster, is probably 2, 3, 4, 5. If you see them at that age and you treat them that way, it's going to have its effects over time. I'm not saying that you will be successful. I think most of these men, especially with a society that actually encourages them to be more monstrous and that implicitly supports them, there's really no chance.
Well, the point is, Michelle Nihul is dead. Polo is dead. They never really. Who knows if they ever had any kind of internal qualms? But fundamentally, there was no justice.
I don't think so. I don't think they had any qualms. I think they were very much on proving that they were right. All the time, and then you live a waste of a life at the end, because then when you face death, then what do you have? You have this big lie.
Yeah. Well, but then the network lives on, and the point is that it's still ongoing, and children are still abused by these networks and killed by these networks.
Yeah.
And trafficked. The only thing that really we can do at this point is to continue to spread the word of its reality, to shift people's awareness, and hope that there are good people within positions of authority to start to make decisions to say enough is enough. I don't know what other power we have except collectively just trying to continue to spread the light, spread the message, and awaken people's hearts.
Well, people with authority, see, there's this belief in authority that is a problem to begin with, that we believe that an authority figure, and again, based on childhood trauma, based on your perceptions of your own parents, you're going to look at authorities in a certain way. And that most of the time that means to put them up and to think that they mean well and they're going to take care of things, and you're not going to have to get up and do the work yourself.
Well, no,
Mostly.
I mean it more in the sense of, you talk about prison. I'm like, well, listen, I mean, you can go around executing these people, but if we're talking about prison, there's a system, there's an authority, which is to say, there's a figure of, you know, of a sheriff, or an arrest, or, you know, a judge, or,
Yeah.
you know, you name it, you know, prison system, a legal system, all these things, which again, I agree with you. We have to dismantle gradually to shift out of that psychology that anyone is beholden to anyone else.
Yeah.
But as long as we have prison systems, and there has to be some level of authority
Yeah.
to say you're going in there and you're not going in there.
Yes,
Right.
and of course, again, ideally, that the authority, anyone who has a position of authority, is there because of their merit. That's to say, their own experiences, which is given them the wisdom to lead others, experientially based, rather than this authority that you get from following the system as it is. That's to say,
No.
following power
Yeah.
and making choices based on fear and your desire to belong. There you would be, you know, it's your own experience that gives you the authority to speak on a subject, for example, like I do, or it gives
Yeah.
you the authority to lead others.
Yes.